Okay, so if you want to use AI, and I think you should at least try it and see if it's right for you, these are my rules for safe AI usage in coding. Okay, we have these three circles. On the inside, I have where the green checkbox is. This is what I consider your current area of expertise. This is what you know really well, whether that is JavaScript, a JavaScript framework, let's say like Svelte or SvelteKit, whether it's Craft CMS on the CMS side and how to implement everything in Twig, or how to run a plugin or a module. Whatever your current area of expertise is, this is in that inner circle with the green check mark. This is where you should be able to pretty much work with very little reliance on outside tools. Yeah, of course, you're going to reference the documentation if you forget a filter, or if you forget how to format dates for something, or the typical things. But this is typically where you could have a conversation with someone and clearly explain the implementation details of a project. Once you get to the next circle with the monocle icon there, then that is going to be where you're stretching a little bit outside of your area of expertise. Let's say that you work mostly in React, and then you are asked to build a project using Kotlin, and you're asked to build an app for Kotlin. Now, you've done maybe one or two Kotlin apps, but it's not really a place that you work in a lot. And you would probably rely a lot on outside resources. Maybe you want to take a training class to refresh yourself, or maybe you're going to rely on the documentation quite a bit more, or somebody's tutorial to remember the order of things in the Kotlin space. Then you're going to be living out there in that space. Now, you can still operate there competently because you know how to get from your inner circle to that outer circle. You have the stepping stones, you have the fundamentals, and you can still get there. The outer circle with the skull and bones, that's the one where you have to be careful, because that is where you are extended well past your area of expertise. And let's say that your area of expertise is building Craft CMS sites with just Twig implementation and adding in plugins. You're not doing any custom coding. You're not building anything really from code outside of the Twig template code. Then the area in the outer circle, the skull and bones, that would be if someone asked you, hey, can you develop an iOS app for this project too, please? Getting from that inner circle to the outer circle is a big jump, and you'll likely find yourself in a place where you're lacking the knowledge to bridge from the inner circle to the outer circle. So that's where you can have some knowledge problems. So it's what I call the distance from core knowledge. As you go out and grow outer into those circles, then you're getting farther away from your core knowledge, and your ability to execute on that becomes more difficult. And I'm going to talk about why this matters in terms of AI. All right, so let's look at this in table format. So knowledge is the first column. So within core knowledge or expertise, the tool effectiveness, if you were going to use an AI tool like ChatGPT or Claude or JetBrains AI assistant, then the effectiveness of that tool is going to be very high, because you'll be able to give it good prompts, and you'll be able to very quickly determine whether the responses you get are BS, because the AI tools will outright lie to you sometimes. So it becomes a very effective way of working, because you can lean on it, but you're still able to lean more, let's say 90% on your own knowledge and 10% on getting help with AI. And the considerations there, you can automate boilerplate, you can automate patterns, you can ask it for approach suggestions to break out of your own view. You can say, hey, well, how would you approach building this? And you can look at it like, oh, actually, you know what? Like, based on my knowledge, that's a valid approach I hadn't thought about or I haven't tried before. Let me go ahead and give it a shot. And because you have the core knowledge from that inner circle, you can easily validate the responses. The next level is just outside of the core knowledge or expertise. The tool effectiveness can still be high, because again, you can still write prompts that will get the AI tool to respond in a way that is as helpful as possible. You can ask it for explanations about things in the JetBrains AI assistant. I know in PHP Storm, and I think it's in all their tools, you can highlight a line of code and say, please explain this code, which is great if you're in a realm where you're not as familiar with the implementation details. You can say, please explain what this does. And then you can use it as a learning opportunity to understand what it is doing. Now, because you're only one circle away from your core knowledge, you can also call BS on it if you feel like it is getting too far out of bounds from what is going to be realistically the truth for what that line of code does. Now, this is important because it helps grow and bridge your knowledge. You can use the AI tool as a way to expand your knowledge because you're still close enough to your core knowledge. And finally, that outer circle, well beyond your core knowledge or expertise. The tool effectiveness here is going to be pretty low, or has the potential to be pretty low, because you have the lack of knowledge to effectively prompt it. Let's say you wanted to build the app in Kotlin, then you haven't done any Kotlin. Now I could say to Claude, I need to build an app in Kotlin, give it all the instructions, and what would be a project structure for this, and it'll tell me, but I have no way of validating whether that's the best approach or a approach that will work when looking at the scope of the project I'm trying to build. So you lack the knowledge to effectively prompt it. You lack the knowledge to validate whether those responses are going to work for you. It becomes difficult to debug because when something isn't working, you're going to say, this isn't working, this is the error I'm getting, and then the AI tool will apologize to you and say, oh, I'm very sorry about this. Let me do this, this, and this. But you don't understand why it did that and why it's suddenly spitting out all this new code to you. And so you get in what I call the AI debugging loop of death. All right, so this is the table example of the distance from core knowledge. Now, my argument here is that AI can and does facilitate learning and improving if you're using it within close proximity to your area of knowledge. Now, AI can be great for getting survey material. You can ask it, what is the typical structure of a Kotlin application? And then you can have it answer that for you, and you can learn survey level material for that. That's perfectly fine. That's learning and improving. What you don't want it to do is have it give you the AI driven or powered project without really understanding why it's doing that and what all of that code is doing. Going back to these concentric circles, the inner one and the second circle where I have it shaded as gray, these are going to be the areas where you are going to be able to learn effectively. And then the outer one, again, is where you are no longer going to be able to learn effectively because you're too far from that core knowledge. So in those first two areas, perfect. You're going to be able to learn effectively using AI tools. I mentioned the debugging loop of death. So the AI debugging loop of death has probably happened to you if you've ever gotten to that outer circle, is that you prompt the AI for some code and it spits that out to you. Now, let's say you're out in that outer circle and then the AI has generated code that doesn't work. Let's say like Kotlin, it doesn't build. So you prompt the AI to fix the error introduced by the AI code. The AI generates new code to fix that error, and then you implement that new code to fix the bug, and then the build doesn't work again, but with a different error. So again, you say, I got this error, and it says, I'm very sorry about that. Here, I'll fix it, and it gives you new code, and then you drop that in, and it doesn't work, and then you prompt the AI to fix the bug that you now have or the error that you now have and so forth. And you're in this loop. And the reason you're in this loop is because you don't understand what the code is doing. You have no idea. You don't know why it's giving you this error. And you're typically not going to take enough time to read the error to know where to go in the source code to fix it. And the problem is if you're not familiar with the source code enough to be able to go read the error and fix it because you're on that outer circle, is that you're just going to be in this AI debugging loop of death. And this is what happens to a lot of people doing vibe coding, because the vibe coding is great until you get to errors or until you get to implementation details that require some domain specific knowledge about the framework or the language or the system that you're using.